Good morning, Saints. Happy Saturday. It's November 1st. So thank you for joining me for this morning's devotion. I'm back from my break. I had to take a break for a while. I was getting too emotionally invested in what's been going on. It's been a lot going on recently, with all this rapture talk and cutting off the food stamps and a lot of things. So I had to pull back for a minute and have a fast in a sense. And so I'm back and I'm happy for it, right? I couldn't wait to get back to this. And there's a lot I want to talk about, of course, right? But we'll stick to the topic at hand. And so thank you for joining me this morning, Saints, for our devotion. And so let's get to it, okay? And so let's talk about this whole situation with the EBT, the food stamp SNAP, being paused, okay, not necessarily cut off. I know I've shared my thoughts about how I feel about that whole situation. I believe that the welfare should only be for the elderly, the disabled, for veterans, and the like. But for able-bodied people, no, no, indeed, they should not receive any type of welfare. That's just my personal opinion. I believe it has done more to hurt us as people than to help. Okay, it was never meant to be a permanent solution. It was just meant to be a temporary fix. But people have abused the system, and we have seen the fruit of that. Okay, all these people are entitled. And now they're just resorting to becoming criminals. And to see these videos and to see all these people expressing their entitlement, that they're owed this, that the government is supposed to take care of them and their kids, and if they don't, they're going to resort to shoplifting and even threatening to steal other people's stuff, right? And that right there, that just shows the worst of people, and it's a shame, right? I want to talk about this because the Bible teaches that depending on the Lord is fundamental to the Christian life, which involves trusting Him for salvation, guidance, and provision, right? And so, saints, we should not be depending on the government, but depending on the Lord. And to see how so many people have placed their trust, their dependency, their way of life on government handouts, right? And then whenever the government chooses to not fulfill those obligations, then they just sit around like like lost children, don't know what to do with themselves, and that's a shame, right? And to see so many of these uh, girls out here who just are having babies and aren't able to take care of one, let alone four or five or six, right? It's a shame. And so it's a welfare system that has been greatly abused. It needs to be overhauled. I am in 100% agreement with that. That whole welfare system needs to be overhauled. Okay, if you receive welfare food stamps, I was talking about this with some of my neighbors. They need to really have a section in the grocery store where if you're on EBT, you can only shop in that section. There's no junk food. You're just getting your basic necessities, right? All that getting steak and lobster tails and all that fancy stuff and junk food. No, that's for people who pay taxes and who are buying food with their money. But if you're getting welfare, you should be limited to what you can buy. Absolutely, I'm in agreement with that. Um, but like I said, for the elderly and for the disabled and for veterans, they they should have that assistance, absolutely. Okay, but for able-bodied people, for all these women that's just making kids to get more and more food stamps, which most of them are selling them anyway. We know this to be the case. I know it to be the case. Okay. Uh, and so yeah, we need to overhaul this system. And so just to see this pause right for this month, And just for 1 month, right? Just think about it. It hasn't even really happened yet, right? It's still up in the air, but just the idea of it, just the thought of it, and look at the response, right? And so, and I'm glad that this is finally shining light on this situation. And I pray that our government, I pray that we as people, we come together and say that we need to make some changes when it comes to this, okay? And coming from a just from a social standpoint, the government welfare system incentivized women to not marry, to not get pregnant, right? If you're a woman and you're not in a position to take care of one child on your own, why are you having two, three, four, five other children? That makes no sense to me at all. And then they're not staying with their children's fathers because they don't have to, right? The government is taking care of them. So we need to stop that. It really has hurt the communities of people across the board, okay? And it's just the facts, right? And so let's read in the book of Psalms. There's so much in the Bible. It talks about uh, um, uh, the Lord being our provider. He is our source, okay? And not the government. See, the government has tried to replace God in people's lives, and we need to unentangle ourselves like that from the government, right? And once again, get back to the Lord, who is our real provider and the source of all our needs. Amen. And so in Psalms 37:25, this is a well-known verse, but it's so befitting for this day and time. I'm kind of shaking. It's kind of cold out here this morning, but it feels good though. So, uh, Psalm chapter 37, verse 25, and that says, um, if I can find, oh, here we go. I have been young and now am old, yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. Amen. And that's so important right there, saints. If we get back to the Lord, see, that's really what it all comes down to. We live in such a unrighteous, ungodly, perverse generation, and maybe I'm just getting old, but this generation of humans that I see out here today, it's just terrible, unthankful, ungodly, unholy, ungrateful, and their whole thing is just give me, give me, give me. Don't want to give nothing back in return, right? And so it's sad to see this, and it's just, I know it's a spirit of lawlessness, and we're living in those days. I understand that, but I want to encourage us, saints. We need to really get back to the Lord and see Him as our provider, Amen. And not the government, and not even our jobs. I know a lot of people will make their jobs become their source, right? And so ultimately, at the end of the day, we know that all things come from the Lord, and we need to and see that as so, Amen. And so thank you for joining me. I know it's been a while, but I'm back at it, and I'm happy for it. And so, like I said, I just had to take a break for a minute, pull back. It was just becoming too much for me to deal with emotionally, on top of everything else. Okay, and so, but we're back at it. Today's November 1st, so we're past this Halloween holiday. Now we're going into the Thanksgiving holiday season. And for those who celebrate that, I like to. It's a time that I'm all about giving thanks, and we should have that attitude, amen. And so, thank you. I pray each and every one of you have a blessed and wonderful day today. Let's continue to lift up our brothers and sisters who are suffering persecution around the world today, and let's be light and let's be salt.